On this episode of In the Gun, the Mountaineers fall to UCF down in Orlando. We'll recap all of that and more on this edition of ITG.
Caution, this podcast contains bad jokes, optimism, and a healthy disdain for Pat Narduzzi. Watching it may increase your actual knowledge of actual football.
ITG.
All the pieces are in place for us to have a chance to win it all.
And we're the three best friends that anybody could have.
There's Owen Schmitt in the building.
Like a runaway beer truck down the sidelines.
Towards the end, he in there, Jed Drenning.
I'm not much of an athlete.
The thing that's non-negotiable is playing hard and playing tough.
And Wesley, Valen, Uhler. You are in the gun.
Because once you enter this family, there's no getting out.
In the Gun, episode 291 of your new favorite WVU football podcast. I'm Wes Uhler, as always, with the best teammates in the business. I'm flanked by the signal caller on this episode of ITG. And unfortunately, we've got to recap another lopsided conference loss for your Mountaineers, 45-13 down at the Acrisure Bounce House in Orlando. We will do all of that in probably one of the briefer episodes of ITG that we've ever had here in game recap history. But before we do any and all of that, of course, a thank you to BetOnline. The game starts here. Also, the good people at Toothman Ford. We all know cars cost less in Grafton. A big shout out to Rick Lewis, our buddy, and everyone at Fortis for roof performance and financial certainty guaranteed. You got to visit fortis.us.com. To the good people at Johnston Equipment, make sure you're checking them out. Route 33 between Weston and Buchanan. You can always visit them online as well too. Johnston, that's Johnston with a T, EQ.com. And of course, to our newest friends of the program, very excited still to have the Book Exchange involved with everything that we're doing now. Get all your Mountaineer gear and WVU apparel at the Book Exchange. They're locally owned and operated retailer with more than 90 years of selling everything you need for game day and everything else you need to show you're the ultimate WVU fan. Shop at their two locations, downtown Morgantown or Evansdale on Pattison Drive. Of course, you can always shop online as well at bookexchangewv.com. And whether you're shopping online or in store at either one of their locations, of course, we will remind you, as always, to make sure you're using that promo code in the gun 20 for 20% off on the fellas here at ITG. And Jed, not only did the Mountaineers have a bit of a blunder down in Orlando, we had a blunder on the program last week when we forgot to do our 1965 Book Exchange throwback helmet question of the week. Shame on us for 6 days.
And hats off to our listeners for pointing that out to us. We dropped the ball on that one. We'll do what we can to remind each other to renew that this week. So in the meantime, if you're hungry to get your 3 credit votes, go ahead and leave a comment just giving us a shout out. Hey, remember to do the question in this episode, and we'll count those. Some of those were in the comment section of the last episode, and we're going to count those as well for tickets toward the helmet at the end of the year. But yeah, shame on us. I did want to give a shout out, Wes. First of all, it was neat to have Daryl Talley on the sidelines. You wish the outcome would have been better, but just that level of greatness being around, getting to spend some time with Daryl and chat things up with him, talk a little football between series with him. That's always great. And then for that matter, Friday night, we had a heck of a get together at a WVU booster's house. Mike Pouncey just moved into his house. He and his wife just moved in 3 weeks ago.
Not to be confused with former Dolphins and Chargers center Mike Pouncey.
He gets it all the time living down there, right?
I'm sure.
He gets it all the time living down there. Yeah, where's Marquise, right? But he put on a heck of a party. There were about 50 attendees. I mean, I was there because I was with Tony and Dwight, and but actually Ren said a few words to the gathering, and
nice.
And he had a really nice setup, and it's really cool to see just how passionate people are all over the country about West Virginia sports when you get to run. And they might leave the state, much like Mike Pouncey did. He's a Charleston guy. He was actually a Capital High School guy. But he left the state. His job took him elsewhere. He lands down in Orlando, and he took his passion with him. So he's a big friend of WVU sports. But hats off to to the Pounceys for hosting us for that get together on Friday night. That was really cool. Like I said, these things are always made so much better if you can bring home a win. All the trappings and surroundings of going back to the bounce house and any of these venues. It's like, somehow I forgot that, the bounce house is perfectly lined up the 50-yard line with the launch site for SpaceX rockets. And their play-by-play guy was telling us they've actually had a couple launches take place during UCF games this year, not for our game.
That's
But
wild.
yeah, all these things are just dismissed and shattered and ruined when it's yet another loss. You can't enjoy any of it. You just come home and you're miserable and you're grumpy, and it takes a day or two to shake it off. And here we are Sunday night trying to shake it off as we commiserate, putting this thing behind us. But back to you.
Yeah, well, we will quickly put this thing behind us on the other side, as unfortunately the Mountaineers drop a fourth straight conference game, and UCF gets their first ever win. WVU had been 4-0 against the Knights in program history. Now UCF finally gets their first lick, their first victory over WVU. We'll recap the game, all that and more when we return on the other side. You are in the gun.
For nearly 20 years, Fortis has been the nation's leader in providing guaranteed roof performance programs for commercial buildings. Fortis offers roof performance solutions that feature extensive initial and ongoing reconditioning for commercial buildings as an alternative to traditional replacement, with long-term performance guarantees that are backed by global leader Lloyd's of London. Fortis offers a comprehensive range of roof performance management programs that provide financial security, extend the life of our customers' roofs, and make a significant impact on ROI. Fortis is currently improving performance and increasing ROI for customers at more than 4,800 locations, with more than 140 million square feet protected, including many Fortune 500 companies that have turned to Fortis to save money, gain financial certainty, and extend the life of their existing roofs. Fortis has helped customers save more than $520 million in capital roof replacement costs for an average ROI of over 250%. To learn more, visit fortis.us.com. Fortis, roof performance and financial certainty guaranteed.
Nobody supports the blue and gold Mountaineers like Toothman Ford. With over 20 NIL deals and counting, Toothman Ford continues to rally behind our student athletes. And it's time we rally and support the dealer that supports the Mountaineers. Not only does Toothman Ford offer the best prices in the state on pre-owned, their never over MSRP campaign on new Fords guaranteed to save you thousands. Drive with pride all season long, knowing you're supporting the dealer that fuels our Mountaineers. Toothman Ford, where cars cost less, in Grafton and at toothmanford.com.
You're listening to Mountaineer Football Talk.
ITG. When the sun's just rising and the work won't wait, you need the equipment that works just as hard as you do. Johnson Equipment delivers power, performance, and reliability day in, day out. Whether you're plowing fields, hauling loads, or planting the future, our tractors are built to take it and then some. Strong, reliable, ready. 0% financing available for up to 84 months on select models.
Johnson Equipment, farming made easy.
Get all your Mountaineer gear in WVU apparel at the Book Exchange. They're the locally owned and operated retailer with more than 90 years of selling everything you need for game day and everything else you need to show you're the ultimate WVU fan. Shop at their 2 locations at downtown Morgantown or Evansdale on Pattison Drive, or online at bookexchangewv.com.
When shopping online at bookexchangewv.com, be sure to enter code INTHEGUN20 at checkout for an awesome savings of 20%. That's right, 20%.
Back in the gun here as we roll along, and it's time to recap a disappointing 45-13 loss to UCF. Like I mentioned before we went to break, the first time the Knights have defeated the Mountaineers in program history. WVU was a perfect 4-0 against UCF. Now WVU a frustrating 0-4 in conference play. 0-4 to start the slate, and a fourth straight loss for the Mountaineers. Jed, it was kind of weird how it all played out, because I think the first half was pretty frustrating. Not as frustrating as the second half, but you were still right in that game at 14-7 at halftime after 30 minutes, despite not playing your best football, despite not doing much well on offense, despite giving up 2 long touchdowns on fourth down opportunities. Both of UCF's touchdowns came on one of those swing possession plays that we talk about all the time. Despite a pretty frustrating first half, I kind of found myself thinking, okay, 30 minutes in the books. It's a one-possession game. Fine, could be worse. UCF could easily have scored 21, 28 points, it felt like at that point. Regroup here, come back out for the final 30 minutes. And unfortunately, in the first half, couple of those 50-50 type plays went UCF's way, but I think a few went WVU's way as well, too. Second half, man, especially right out of the chute, just kind of bang, 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 bang there early in the third quarter. Every moment that you needed to go your way went the other way.
Certainly did. And it did feel like even the first half was a tale of two games. Out of the gates, they were one of the better first quarter teams in the country. That's something that we spent part of the pregame talking about. They've been very dominant in getting the jump on teams. Nobody has scored against them on their first possession. That held true against us. They forced a punt. And for that matter, Cincinnati was the first team to even score against them in the first quarter. And meanwhile, their offense typically comes out humming early in the game. So they were a first quarter heavy team. We knew that. We still couldn't withstand it. And they jumped out to that 14-0 advantage. And it tilted so quickly. You're like, oh boy, where's this going? But then we kind of wrestled it back in. And made a game of it for the better part of the first half. Next thing you know, we stop them on fourth down. And then we have a short field for our young quarterbacks. Khalil steps in, gives us a little bit of a spark. Boom, it's 14-7. And then we have the ball at the end of the half, and we're driving down with an opportunity to put points on the board there. What felt like a very makeable field goal, 44 yards, perfect weather. We missed on that, so we left points on the table to end the half. And you still felt going in, hey, we got this thing back under control. We found some things we liked in the run game in the second quarter. We strung together some first downs. We were able to shoot some tempo their way for a while in that second quarter as well. And then in the second, at halftime, we're in there trying to adjust to what we might expect and haven't seen, or some of the things they gashed us on. And in the second half, unfortunately, it started much like the first half. We pinned them back inside the 10. So we've talked all season about how the defense has struggled with short fields. The West Virginia defense entered the game from a starting field position standpoint, ranked 130th in the country. So they've dealt with some short fields. But meanwhile, we pinned them inside the 10, both to start the game when they drove 90-plus yards, from 97 yards on 6 plays for that first touchdown to capitalize on the fourth down touchdown pass, and then to start the second half. That was a 92-yard drive. So you would like to see the defense respond and swell up and get excited, saying, finally, we got a long field to our back and, a little bit of wind in our sail. Let's do something with it. And unfortunately, we couldn't do that. They drive 92 yards, 9 plays. It's 21-7. Next thing you know, they're making it 28-7 with the defensive touchdown on the turnover. And that was kind of really the beginning of the end. They were just going to run away with it from there. We never managed to regroup or recapture anything that we had going in that second quarter. And the truth is, Wes, in the first half, I thought on the UCF side, part of what was happening was self-inflicted by the Knights. Yes, they had this great success, but fourth down giveth and fourth down taketh away, right?
Totally.
They had 2 long touchdown passes on fourth down, but at the same time, the reason we scored was we had a short field because we got a fourth down stop when a lot of people felt they should have punted. And then they left at least a short field goal opportunity on the field with the other 4th and 1 that we stopped them there. About the only thing that they didn't do with great success and have their way with us were short yardage situations. We did swell up with a couple of those and get some stops. So outside of that, they could have potentially had more points on the board in the first half, and it might not been, the situation going into the intermission that it was as competitive at 14-7. But yeah, once it reached 28-7, they started pushing us around. We started miscommunicating. And, some of the ugliness that we've talked about in the past, we talk about missed tackles, we talk about big plays. Well, this was a game, Wes, where both those things reared their ugly head. We gave up big plays, we had missed assignments, and we had missed tackles. I think we totaled, according to PFF, close to 20 missed tackles. I didn't keep track while I was watching tape, but trust me, it wasn't a single-digit number. Yeah. It was up there.
The only game that we've played all year with a lower tackling grade than this past Saturday, you could probably guess it was the Utah game. So our second worst tackling performance of the year via PFF.
Makes perfect sense. But yeah, you would have hoped. I mean, what we were hoping for over the course of the bye week was to come out and maybe shore some things up on the defensive side of the football, in all three phases for that matter. But on the defensive side, tackle as well as we did against BYU, but limit those big splash plays. And we did neither of those things. I mean, a UCF run game that had struggled, despite the fact that Miles Montgomery's a dangerous player. I mean, he's a shifty handful to get to the ground. I mean, talk about missed tackles forced. He's a guy that can rack a lot of those up too. And that certainly showed against our defense. And for that matter, the biggest bugaboo, they had 40 plus dropbacks. And once again, for the fourth consecutive game, we did not register a single quarterback sack. That's something, Wes, we're going to talk about that. And I have a very thorough breakdown of how often we blitzed, how many dropbacks we faced, how many pressures we got versus sacks. In the TCU preview later in the week, because we're about to face Josh Hoover and a very pass-heavy TCU team, we're going to do a deep dive on all those numbers and metrics on the defensive side to see how that stacks up going into the TCU game. But, I mean, through 4 games, I think we blitzed them 22 times. I mean, I would have to go back and reference my notes, but 22 times was 0 sacks. Again, we had some pressures, but we had no sacks. And that's just not a recipe for success on the defensive side of the football. And on the offensive side of the football, yeah, the issue was we couldn't get much humming outside of one quarter of play. It's not like this was for the balance of 60 minutes. I mean, we played decent football for the second quarter. We had some things clicking. We found some success with the jet sweep. They buttoned up their edges in the second half, and we were kind of limited. We knew going with the young quarterbacks, once again going in, you're going to have a relatively narrow selection from a game plan standpoint. So once they smoke certain things out, it's going to get even tougher and even more challenging. And if you just can't get surge and push right there at the initial point of attack with some of your basic concepts like inside zone, if you can't pick 3, 4, 5 yards up consistently with your inside zone concept, everything else, the rest of the window dressing is just going to be difficult, and it's going to lead to a bunch of third longs, which it once again did, which is going to put you behind the sticks. Next thing you know, it's 4th and long. And here you are in a trail position, but unfortunately, that's kind of how things shook out. But if I'm looking at positives, they're difficult to find. Obviously, you do feel. Now, granted, part of it's competition, but I think that's what made this frustrating. I mean, Utah and BYU, even Kansas to some extent, where they were when we played them, that was a bit of a different animal, right?
Sure.
But this UCF team had 60-some new players. They were a team in transition. They have a new head coach. I think the fundamental difference is they did return some experience up front on the offensive line. They did have a couple playmakers healthy at the running back spot, a couple playmakers healthy on the perimeter at the receiver spots on the offensive side. But more so than anything, they had an experienced veteran quarterback. I mean, a guy that was one, you can kind of say they have 2 starters between Taven Jackson and Cam Fancher, because Taven Jackson won that job back from Cam Fancher before he got hurt. And he played a lot of football. He was at Tennessee and Indiana before transferring to UCF. So I think one of the fundamental differences was for UCF as a team in transition, they were led by a veteran quarterback with some veteran playmakers and a little more experience. Even though their best player up front, their left tackle, was out, Paul Rubelt, they still had some experience up front, a little bit of continuity, but and they had the veteran quarterback, whereas we had a couple freshmen that we're trying to build with behind an offensive line that has yet to find its way and is still trying to find ways to improve with some of our better skill players banged up. We all know the narrative. We all know the drill. We know Jaden Bray's out. We know Jaheim White's out. We know Ty Edwards is now out, who we plugged in and we hope was our second best option.
Your top 2 quarterbacks. I mean, everyone talks about that, rightfully so, but also your top 2 quarterbacks and Nico and Jalen coming into this season are both out as well, too. I mean,
3, because Max Brown hasn't been healthy. So your 3 veterans that were really in the spring battling for the job. Max Brown's still trying to work his way back to full health. He was an emergency quarterback in Orlando. Hopefully he's healthy this week, because I do want to see more of him. But, if you reach the point where you're playing the 4th option among your quarterbacks, I mean, how would you feel if West Virginia's facing someone's 4th option?
Right. Pretty good.
I mean, I'd feel a lot better as opposed to one of their two starters like Taven Jackson. So we can't change what it is. We just have to find ways to try and improve on it. And so far, that's been a mighty challenge that we haven't been able to overcome through league play. I mean, obviously, 4 up and 4 down in league play, 3 of them, you could even say 4 of them decisively. At least we showed some burst against BYU and showed some things. But this one, the first half was a completely different game than the second half. Yeah. And this was, you kind of hoped that we could turn the second half into a game where conditioning would matter and we could get into some more tempo like we did in the second quarter. But in the trail possession we found ourselves in so quickly by 2 scores right out of the gates in the second half, that never materialized. And it was a challenge to the extreme. And it's not going to get any easier. It's just not. There's no empty chairs. We all know what's remaining. We all know the challenge. And if you look at the remaining 5 games, do the math, they've won 71% of their games, and 4 of the 5 remaining opponents are either ranked or getting votes in the top 25 poll. So there are no layups here. There aren't. I mean, you're going to have to find a way to reinvent the wheel a couple times over to demonstrate some level of improvement that you really haven't shown, again, for the balance of 4 quarters in league play. You haven't demonstrated that yet. I mean, you have a situation like if you're looking for the positives, there's some things to build on. Okay, I would look at defensively, we already have more takeaways, but for all the struggles, and trust me, the struggles are many. The struggles and missed assignments and splash plays and missed tackles are many. But we already have more takeaways than we had all of last year. So we're among the league leaders in takeaways. And for that matter, we're actually still playing pretty decent defense on third down. Fourth down, different animal. But third down, something to build on. And on the offensive side, really the only thing I can turn to is, even though we haven't been there much, once we get to the red zone and the field shrinks, at least we've been turning those trips into touchdowns and making the most of them. We're among the league leaders. I think we're third in the Big 12 in red zone touchdown percentage. Outside of that, you're going to have us talking about our punter and a great season Ollie Straw's having. I mean, that's where we're at. Like, we're even to the point, Wes, where even the good news is kind of bad news. And what I mean by that is that Pitt win becomes more impressive each week. And in its own way, that's bad news. Who wants Pitt to win, right? But
well, it
is
kind of
hilarious.
Be a
decent football team, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I still think they're. They might be a little bit of a false dawn. They beat a terrible BC team and a Florida State team that hasn't won a conference game since I think George W. Bush was in the White House. And they really stumbled around and managed to beat a bad Syracuse team. But yes, I mean, Pitt is
teams that
they're 5-2. ACC. They're 5. Pitt, but hey. You are what your record says you are, right, Bill Parcells? They are 5-2, and I certainly wish we were 5-2.
Those teams you just described populate about 75% of the conference they're in. So,
I know. But they've got Notre Dame and Georgia Tech, and I think one other kind of heavy hitter coming up soon. So we'll see how good they're feeling about themselves by Thanksgiving time. But no, Jed, I mean, I think it's about that simple. Like you bring up, and I do think that is in a very thin bend to be digging around. One of the positives is the amount of turnovers that this defense has continued to force. They won the turnover margin again. I mean, only +1, right? But they won the turnover margin again. But I'm going to continue to reference this until hopefully at some point this year it goes in the opposite direction. I told you I spent a bunch of time in my dorky self researching this over the summer when I was looking for topics and things to talk about for the football show that I do up here in Pittsburgh for the Steelers. Other than turnover margin, everybody knows that that's the number one indicator of who wins a game. Number 2, though, right behind it are your sack differential and your explosive play differential. And Jed, you haven't had a sack in 4 weeks. Everyone knows. I mean, you were -7 in the sack differential on Saturday against UCF. And Jed, I haven't gone back and charted it, but I imagine you were -10-ish, double digits, I would think, in the explosive play margin. I mean, UCF had 278 yards. WVU had 210. Yet UCF only had 2 more first downs than the Mountaineers. You know what that tells me? It tells me they were hitting a lot of chunk plays, and it didn't take them as long to get down the field. They didn't need to.
278 Wes.
Sorry, say that again.
You said 278? You mean
500,
578?
570. Did I say
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
278? Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
I
said
meant
270. I said,
578.
whoa, wait
Sorry.
a minute. Okay.
Yeah, no,
Oh, yeah.
578 yards to 210 yards, yet they only had 2 more first downs than us. That's because they're hitting a lot of explosive chunk plays. I mean,
It's a strange
you
thing.
know,
Let me ask you
yeah,
this, Wes.
2.7
Had I
yards
told
per
you,
rush for us, 7.3 for them. You got to get those
yeah,
explosive plays and those sacks. You can't be having deficits like that.
which directly impacts your yards per play and on down the line. But had I told you in August that through 7 games, our turnover margin would be 0, we wouldn't be negative or plus, we wouldn't be negative 6 or 8 or 10. Would you have believed we get blown out 3 out of 4 games, maybe even 4, depending on how you count it, in league play to start Big 12 play? That's that's what's frustrating. But at the same time, what if you'd have told me that, oh, by the way, there's a caveat to this. Your top 2 rushers, including Jaheim White, are out. You're down to your 4th quarterback.
Right.
Okay, I still don't know if I'd have bought 4 blowouts. I'd have thought it's going to take
Hell,
-7,
Hammond
-8 in the
Russell's
turnover
not
margin.
playing, on the defensive line. Yeah.
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 It's just one of those seasons that, and the frustrating part is every time you feel like you find something, oh wow, there's something to build on. Build on, when I say build on, I mean in the form of the next 5 games. Okay. I don't mean moving forward, because it might be a Jordan Walker who's a senior, right? I mean,
Sure.
all this senior heavy class. Now, again, if you dig deep enough, even some of these seniors, you can still squeeze some eligibility for a handful of them because they played junior college ball before they played FBS ball.
Right.
So some of them still have some eligibility. But by and large, when you look at most of these seniors, that's just not the case. Most of these guys are one and done. So that's what's frustrating when you see quality play out of Jason Chambers, or you see quality play out of some of these other defensive backs. That's what's frustrating about it. Is you're like, well, okay, we have them for 5 more games, but that's pretty much the long and short of it. It's not like what they're doing right now showing promise we can build into next year with. So that's the issue. So that's even more frustrating. Like when you go look at the guys responsible for the turnovers, uh, whether it was Chambers or I thought Jordan Walker played a good football game. He's one of the few guys on the defensive side that came in and made some things happen. But we had this conversation about a month ago, that short list of young guys that you feel it's really necessary to retain them. Well, you know who else has worked their way into that list for me, from a versatility, skill set standpoint, and just what kind of guy he is for the locker room. He's a good football player. He's a good guy. Curtis Jones. I mean,
Yeah.
Curtis Jones has absolutely worked his way into that. Like, he was part of the media in the post game the other day. He acquitted himself so well under very tough circumstances, played a good football game, impacted a few plays. He had a few. I didn't even know if I didn't even check the metrics. I think they missed one of his pass deflections because it was caught. He had a screenplay that he actually tipped and almost made a huge play the other way on, and ended up being caught for like a 7-yard gain. It was just one of those days. I mean, meanwhile, the other one he batted way into the air. It was obvious for everybody to see. But Curtis Jones made some things happen. He has some versatility, multiple position versatility to him. That's kind of what I'm looking for down the stretch. How many names like that can you accrue that do have remaining eligibility, show some flashes of promise from a retention standpoint that you can work towards? Because every one of those is going to matter. I mean, this year we have 81 new faces. If you can mitigate that number and even cut it down to 50 new faces next year, what that means is that's 70 guys potentially in the locker room that now understand the culture and can preach it to the others. Right now, there's 0 guys in the locker room that are able to do that, outside of a couple from Jack State, a handful from Jack State that were part of it when Rich was there. But that's kind of where I'm at with it, Wes. But yeah, that's what's frustrating, is some of the better play and production is coming from guys who won't be back.
Correct. And you're right. Hopefully that tune will change in the last 5 games. But that currently to this point is, I think you're spot on. Something we wish we could hang our hat on, but has not manifested quite yet. All right. I think that'll do it. I think that's good. Jed, you good? I'm good. I mean, I'm not good, but I'm good.
I'm going to add one more thing. It's not even to do with our game, Wes. I'll throw this back at you to close. We had the conversation last week about James Franklin being fired. And we were curious as to whether or not that will impact the structure of coaching contracts moving forward. He had a $49 million buyout, yes, with offset language, but you want to pay a guy $50 million to not work when you're trying to buy your roster. I do think that's ultimately going to impact games. Well, people in the comments were saying things like, well, hey, right after that show aired, you had this $90 million contract from Curt Cignetti at Indiana. Yeah. Yes, look at the buyout in that contract. That's my entire point. You know what the buyout in that contract was, Wes?
$89 million, right?
The buyout. $15 million. Penn State could find that between their cushions. Yes, it was a $90 million contract, but if Penn State or Florida so chose to, they could find that buyout between the cushions of their couch. Normally, you'll see 50% or greater for the buyout total of the contract, right? The buyout total, it was only $10 million in his old contract. In this new $90 million deal, that's my entire point. It's only $15 million. You would expect in the old days, by 2 years ago, 3 years ago, a $90 million contract to yield a buyout of 50 or 60 million, not 15 million. That's kind of my entire point. That contract was making my point for me. Do you want to pay somebody that much money to not work when you're trying to buy your roster? The answer is unequivocally no. Indiana doesn't want to. And if somebody wants to come along and buy him out for 15 million, tons of schools have the money to do that if they so choose to. But I'll leave you with that.
I tell you, it's very disheartening looking into the top of the AP poll and seeing Indiana and Georgia Tech and Vanderbilt and why, God, when are we going to get back there? Jeez Louise. But that's a different conversation. That's a different conversation. Oh, goodness gracious. That's a different conversation for another day. Another full week coming at you. Barbecuing with the beer truck dropping this week to get us ready for the TCU game. Of course, we'll have the TCU preview. And we will have a little peach lot party on Saturday as well, too. 6 o'clock kickoff. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you now, I'm not going to be there crazy early. I mean, the weather will be bleh. I don't want to leave my wife hanging the entire day, but we will have a peach lot party in the afternoon this upcoming Saturday where we can all gather and commiserate and talk about how much fun that backyard brawl win was once again.
About that, Wes, did you see the TCU line?
Yeah, 14.5. I don't want to talk about
14.5. Yeah. Open at 14.5.
Well, hopefully TCU's ready to pull their best Penn State and lose as a big favorite. But we'll get to all that later in the week. Barbecuing with the beer truck, TCU preview, Phil Steele, all that good stuff as you expect. But that will do it for this edition of ITG. For the producer, co-host, Mr. Do-It-All, Schuyler Callihan, the beer trucking, sharp-dressed man himself, Owen Schmitt, and, of course, the signal caller, Jed Drenning. I'm Wes Uhler. The one thing we ask of you is to be an ear and tell an ear about your new favorite WVU football podcast. Take care, everybody. We'll talk to you soon. You've been In the Gun.
ITG.
The fun doesn't have to stop here.
Be sure to hit subscribe and never miss an episode.
If you have any questions, suggestions, or feedback,
be sure to follow us on X at In the Gun Podcast.
Join us again next time.
Until then,
tell an ear to tell an ear about your new favorite WVU football podcast.
This mission is over. It's over.